Thank you for showing up today at Cybercrime Month, and I'm Marty Fleischhacker. I work with the Minnesota Department of Commerce, but I'm also an AARP volunteer. That's why if you see AARP on the slides, ARP has a lot more money to put into these presentations than Commerce does, and I am the supervisor of the team that handles the referrals to our department from financial institutions, and we try to help financial institutions to help their customers to stop being victims of financial exploitation, scams, fraud, all those types of things. And this is what we do every week. I used to be Assistant Commissioner of Enforcement. I know our 22 industries, and it's very helpful to do what I have to do at Commerce and to help convince people. When we hear about cybercrime, most people think of data breaches. I know I do. Like Experian had one a few years ago. My information was exposed with Experian's hack, as well as more than half the country. Target, Home Depot, Yahoo, email. You hear about it. I think MoneyGram just got hacked too recently. So, that's what people think of, and so. It's all these instances, and we need to do everything we can personally to protect ourselves from these breaches and to reduce the things that we do online that can harm us. So what is cybercrime? It's quite simply cybercrime is any criminal or illegal activity that involves the internet or a computer as a means to commit the. Believe me, things used to happen over the phone mostly. Now, cybercrime is transferring completely to phones and computers. And that's what I'm dealing with, like I say, every day. I'll leave time for questions at the end. So please hold them, and I'll move forward with this. So again, cybercrime includes, anything on the computer, but that's also including identity theft and other forms of online fraud that pose a serious and growing problem throughout the nation. And I'm sure that everybody today has gotten a text message or email, from a scammer. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. This stuff is real. It's happening all around us. And it's, I think that the latest estimates are somewhere between 30 and 50 billion a year. So that the scammers are good if they're getting that kind of money. And a lot of these are long-term or long-distance scams. The scammers are in other countries. Maybe I know they've been caught in Nigeria and Jamaica and Costa Rica and Canada. And, some are operating in America too, but a lot of these are outside of our country, and we know that also because we trace some of the money to see where it goes, and it leaves our country pretty quickly. Scammers are revising their frauds every year to make them better, trickier, more aggressive, and try to reach criminals more efficient or victims more efficiently. And I can tell you that criminals have gotten much more sophisticated, especially using AI. And so when I say the old days, just a few years ago, we would see emails or text messages or communications of some sort where people had bad English. It's not like that anymore. The people have cleaned up their act, and they use all kinds of fake people, fake FBI, fake bankers, fake lawyers, all sorts of folks. And that's why they get the big bucks, is because they convince us. The FBI has a website. It's called IC3, Internet Crime Complaint Center. I refer people there a lot of times if they have a large loss, and they get an average of about 1,500 reports a day. So the FBI is dealing with this. They deal with the higher dollar volumes. And so that's why you really need to protect yourself. Local law enforcement can only help you as far as the border of a city or the border of our state, and that's where their jurisdiction ends. And as far as the FBI goes, there's less FBI agents doing everything they do than there are New York City police officers. So just remember that. You really need to protect yourself and talk to somebody if, you have any sense whatsoever that something sounds amiss. And these people are experts at the way that they do their, engage in these crimes. So here's the agenda for today. I'll just help you understand some of the basic precautions you should take. We'll talk about the importance of good, strong passwords, updating them, practices you should develop to keep your personal information private, no matter what you're doing online, whether it's browsing, social media, checking email, banking, working with your home network, taking a few precautions that'll make it much more difficult for you to become a victim, hopefully. And harder for cyber criminals to exploit you. I'll also suggest a few resources for additional information to help you with in the future with any scam or fraud issues or questions that you have. And I hope you find the material today interesting. And even if it's some stuff you've already heard, well, you know what, for me, I read a lot of articles and a lot of it's repetition in the articles, but you know what, it helps to drive the point home. And I hope that, you get something out of this, and especially if whatever you get that's valuable, share it with friends, because this stuff, again, is growing. It's off the charts, and it's many, many billions of dollars lost from Americans every year. So some general cyber hygiene, we call habits and precautions you need to adopt within your online life, cyber hygiene. That's exercising good cyber hygiene. And that'll help reduce your risk no matter what you're doing on the internet. Best way to avoid trouble on the internet is to know where you're most likely first to be subject to cyber criminals. Websites that people go to for free things. So if you're going to websites where there's gaming or there's free music or free movies or pornography, historically, those are where there's the highest likelihood that your computer will be affected, or you get the little pop-up screens and with malware and things like that. So be aware, if you're going to these free websites and you're getting information, those are one of the main places where you can run into trouble, because the free sites aren't going to be like your financial institution where they spend just boatloads of money, or government websites, other things like that are extremely secure. And these other places are not. So limit the personal information you make available on the web as well. If you go to my Facebook account, you'll see my Facebook account is locked down to my friends, so they can't try to send additional Facebook friend requests from me to my friends, because they don't have access to my friends. And I get multiple requests from some of my Facebook friends, and I know they're bogus because I'm already friends with them. But that's the type of stuff that they'll do. And plus, I don't want people who are not my friends knowing what I'm doing in my personal life. It's giving them information that they maybe can use. If I'm out of town, they can burglarize my house. I know that somebody in my neighborhood posted that they had just left for vacation, and that day they got burglarized. So, being careful about what you put on the dark web or on the web about yourself. And a lot of this stuff is compiled by folks, and then they'll sell it to other people. And if you don't think that that's happening, you're wrong, because people collect data that we put on there. Sometimes I'll see friends of mine on Facebook where they'll have a security question that a bank usually uses, and they'll say, what kind and what color was your first car? And I see somebody put on there a red Ford Mustang, and I think, oh my God, that's, you just gave away a security question. I hope you didn't use that for one of your accounts. So again, just be careful what you put out there. It's fun to play games on social media and to put stuff on the internet, but just be careful what you open yourself up to when you do that. And this is one of the most important things, and that is, if you're engaged in some sort of activity, somebody is calling you and there's some emotion involved, whether it's or romance, or maybe they called you and they're saying that your grandson's in jail or in the hospital, or whatever the case might be. Listen to that little voice in the back of your head. I've had so many victims say, right away I thought something was wrong, but I didn't know who to call. Listen to that voice. I can't tell you how important that is. Call somebody like me. Call law enforcement right away, because we see the patterns and we know how these scams work. We see it, one thing after another. All right, so how do you stay safe online? Remember, even if you follow safe browsing rules, others who you allow to look at your computer. Like I used to let my kids play with my phones, and then I had my phone, and I had problems with my phone. They would download these free games, and there were, things attached to them, and it was a disaster. So again, if you're going to let your grandchildren or your children or a friend use a computer, make sure you know that they are not doing anything that you wouldn't do. so that can protect yourself. Major browsers most people use, like Microsoft Edge, Google, Chrome, Safari, Firefox, they have logic built in, so it warns you when a program is at risk. And if they warn you, don't log onto that program. I don't. And if I have applications on my phone that I don't use and I haven't used for a while, I go through my phone, I go through my computer, I go through my tablet, and I get rid of those applications, because they're all a risk if somebody hacks into them, that somebody could get into your computer and whatever data they have, and some of them can track you. And I don't want anyone, I want as few people tracking me as possible. Okay. So again, if you don't, excuse me, you don't use it, I say remove it. Increasing number of sites are often various means of protecting your account. All my accounts have two-factor authentication. And if you know what two-factor authentication is, it's when you put in your password, then what'll happen is they'll send you your, let's say, your financial institution. But I even have it for my email accounts and everything, where if I log into a program using my password, and I could give any one of the folks here listening today my passwords, it wouldn't do you any good. Because if you don't have my phone or you don't have access to my email, it'll send me a code either by email or text, whatever I designate, and then I have to put that code in to actually get in the program. So having the password alone won't do it. That's the first layer. The next step, the multi step, is the second step, where I have to put in the code that they send me. So again, I use that. Other ones have password or code generators. They'll generate a code, and then you have to click on and use that code within the time period specified. So there are different variations, but again, it's more than just using a password. So if somebody got your password, they could get into your program, and that's not going to do it. The other thing that experts say, and the people at our Department of Commerce say, we're a government agency, we have lots of confidential data, and they ask us to be very safe with anything. They send us bogus emails to test us to see if we'll click on things. And I'm happy to say for at least the last couple of years, I haven't clicked on any of those things. It's embarrassing if you do. Like several years ago, I clicked on one that I shouldn't have. I was in a hurry. And so, change your password every 60 to 90 days. That's what they suggest. And we're going to talk a little bit about passwords. So I hope when you're looking at these passwords on the screen, none of these are yours. I brought my son in to get his computer fixed one time. He put his finger on the 1, went all the way to the 0, and said, there's my password. And I said, Evan, you know what I do for a living, and we've talked about this. And so, it was his high school computer, so he didn't worry about what was on there. But nonetheless, make sure that if you're using one of these passwords, I know people that use QWERTY123. Don't use these. These are the first things that the scammers try to look at. Out of a recent study of 15 million passwords, only a little over 2 million were unique. Okay. So that just tells you how hard it is to have unique passwords. Be careful using your year of birth, maybe your cat's name that you published on Facebook, things like that. Make it hard to find stuff that challenges the criminals, the scammers. Make them work to get the information, and hopefully they won't be able to get it. These are the top 10 worst passwords. Again, that one there, the one that my son just flicked his finger across the numbers. These are so easy for the scammers to figure out year after year. These don't change, and people keep using these things. So we know it's something that you should do when you're exercising cyber hygiene is to use passwords that are at least 8 characters and make them complicated. Making them easy to remember oftentimes makes them easier for a hacker to discover. And if you don't have lowercase, uppercase, symbols, and numbers, then the complexity, according to the folks at our department, isn't great enough, and you should be using all of those things to make it the strongest password that you can. So if you follow the basics of personal cybersecurity protection, the cyber criminal, will probably, hopefully, move on to the next person. All right. U.S. government guidelines suggest a phrase-based password, and I do that. I'll use a sentence where instead of I's, I'll use ones. I'll use, add some numbers in there, some upper and lowercase words, like, that purple bird number 123 right there. That's, the kind of thing that I have for all my passwords. And all my passwords are unique. I have dozens and dozens and dozens of them. It's a nightmare every month or every 30, 60 to 90 days when I change them. But nonetheless, I keep them unique. I had a Yahoo password hacked one time, and I realized I use it across a half dozen websites, and that's what the scammers do right away. When they get somebody's password, they'll try it for other things that the person may be hooked up with. And so you want to make sure that you use a unique password for each one of the websites you visit, even though that's a hassle. Using numbers or special characters again in the password will make it even stronger. This slide right here really drives it home for me, how to make it difficult for scammers to hack passwords. Look at that. If you have 8 numbers, you have 10 numbers, they can instantly hack it. If you just have lowercase letters, 58 minutes, even if it's 10 characters, they can hack it. If you have numbers, upper and lowercase letters, it makes it more complex. But again, mine, I have numbers, upper, lowercase, and symbols. And if you're making 12-letter or 12-digit passwords like me, you're talking 34,000 years. They're not going to waste their time. They're going to move on to the next person. And you can see that just putting a little extra effort in to making a more complex password will pay off for you. So what makes a password strong? Again, it's the types of things I talked about. Some people want to use or have asked me about using password management applications in our department. Our folks in IT, they suggest that we use those too. One of them is called One Password, the digit 1 and then password. There's another one called Keeper. Norton has a password manager. Another one's called RoboForm. Do a little bit of background and check it out online, look at reviews, and some of these, if you use the paid version, they'll also hook up to your websites, so they'll generate new passwords for you, they'll store your passwords, and they'll fill it in when you use the website. I've not heard of any issues with the password managers. All these password managers, though, are going to require you to have a main password. That's what you can't forget. Otherwise, you're going to be locked out of the system, and you won't be able to get all any of your passwords. But when you set your password and you keep them in the password manager, they're going to be safe and encrypted, and it'll make it a lot harder for the criminals. Again, they'll move on to somebody else. A few other tips. We already talked about multi-factor authentication. And keeping all applications, operating systems, and security software like antivirus, anti-malware, anything that you use, make sure that you enable the updates in the system to protect you, because the criminals, they'll exploit those. I could tell you stories about how people have exploited the, when people don't update their software and they get the glitches in the software. People will access them and cause them harm and get into their systems. Turning on automatic updates. That's what I usually do. I let it most of my password or applications update in the middle of the night. And if it's not offered, then what I do is I put it on a schedule. I'll put it right on my calendar so that I know I have to update, at least monthly, check it out. Think of all the major data breaches. And again, using the unique passwords for each one, it will help you protect yourself from, cross application use of any information that's hacked. And a few more precautions. It's difficult to stay off social media platforms. I know, I use them too. And so again, to protect yourself and your identity from fraudsters, when you go onto these sites, most of the things that we talked about so far apply to social media accounts, email accounts, texting, but there's a few additional precautions you can use for social media. there's no 100% effective way to protect yourself. So, just being careful, only accepting friend requests. Because of my position at Commerce and fighting fraud, I get requests from around the world. It's bizarre, but I get requests from all over. I just ignore them. I don't accept any of them unless I know the person. And some of the applications, they want you to friend as many people. LinkedIn, if you use that, you'll know that they keep track of that. And some people, they have I think I have 500 people that I'm associated with on there, more than 500 people. But I'm still extremely careful about who I accept these from, because that gives the people access to my information. Be wary, skeptical and wary of any application you use where you get a request for somebody to enter into the application with you. I had about a 6 to 8 week period where I had 6 people who had been scammed and these people were using backgammon, online backgammon, and words with friends. They had people who contacted them, said, "Hey, can I play the game with you?" And they played the game online. And the next thing, they got into a romance with the person who they were talking to. They got very close to them. Then the person started asking them for money. And that's how they got scammed. So again, it's not just the Facebook or one of those. It can be any application. The scammers are trying to get to you. And obviously that's the romantic applications too, Match.com and others. We know Christian Mingle, other ones where they'll try to connect with you. The scammers will set up fake profiles. And so again, just be careful of anyone you meet online. There's people on every type of social media who also try to, gather information and use that information against you. The best scammers do their research, and then they'll use the information they can glean about you to befriend you, to build rapport with you, and then, to scam you. So that's why I just say be careful about any information that you put online. And if you use join with Facebook or similar shortcuts to link or share any of your accounts, it makes it easier for the scammer too to share your network news or makes it easier for you to share your network news, but it also can provide an easy path for others into your accounts, is what I meant to say. So just be wary of that too. So if you're using public Wi-Fi, hopefully you don't transmit any information unless you're using a VPN connection, a virtual private network. There are some. I think there's one free one online that you can download and use the virtual private network. There are many great applications that you can purchase, but if you're using public Wi-Fi, people have the ability to get in the middle of your conversation, and that can be a nightmare. It's called a man-in-the-middle attack. It's eavesdropping, and when you're sending confidential information, it's not confidential. If that person's hacked into the system and is monitoring what you're sending across to your bank account or your financial institution about your bank account or your friends. And so that's where you just need to be careful. So I would say if you're going to use public Wi-Fi, don't ever send anything, confidential. I know there have been some senior living facilities where they had some Wi-Fi scams take place. And it's happened everywhere, but I just know that about a few that I've heard about where I gave presentations where somebody was engaged in this man-in-the-middle stuff where everybody was using the same public Wi-Fi for the building and without virtual private networks, and information from many of the residents was getting hacked. Another thing, the Internet of Things. So it's really nice when we can have our home appliances and your wash goes off and you get a notice on your phone, hey, your washing machine load is done, or your dryer is done, or your refrigerator needs a new filter in the water section or whatever. And it's very convenient and everybody loves to have that stuff, but those are all ways for scammers and people to enter into your network at your house if they're not secure. So just make sure if even using Alexa or Google Home and security systems too. they all will allow access to your network. So make sure that you follow the directions to make sure that those, whatever application, whatever you're hooking up to your home network, that it's secure and it's not easy for somebody to get into the system. So securing those Internet of Things devices, all right? One thing that I do is I set up a guest access to my network, and I only connect things to that guest access to my network. I don't have it on my main access. So if somebody hacks into it, they're going to be blocked from accessing everything else in my home, or computers, or tablets, or my phone, anything else that's hooked up to my main router in my house. So, when you hear the stories about people getting their baby cams hacked into and stuff like that, usually it's because people don't have those things secured. So, make sure that you secure them. If you can put multi-factor authentication on those, it's even better too. And if you also have that guest network availability, then hook it up, and then you might just decide anyway, just because of the risk involved, that maybe you don't need your washing machine attached to your home network. I know I don't have mine. I think mine has some functionality like that, but I know I don't have it hooked up at my house. So here's some of the basics. Banks and credit unions, again, are required to use strong security systems in place on their networks to protect customers. Most online banking horror stories you read about in the press are from banking applications that were compromised on the customer's system, or the customer let the person in, or the customer shared their password with somebody. It's not because of the financial institution. Keep browser software and hardware current. One reason so many entities, including major corporate systems, are vulnerable and fall victim to hacker is that they've not kept their systems updated. So update that, put it on automatic updates if you can, so that the software patches in place are put in place and updated. Taking basic steps we've discussed will protect your banking applications and your laptop and smartphones and all the other applications you have. And of course, making it a habit to monitor your bank statements regularly for any suspicious activity is also a good practice. Scammers oftentimes will try to put through a charge if they've hacked into your account or a credit card for 34 cents, and then they'll increase it to $2. And then if they are able to use your credit card, then they're off to the races. And so watch for those little charges, or any charges that are out of the ordinary. Credit reports during the pandemic were allowed to be run virtually on an unlimited basis, and I'm not aware of the law changing from COVID and in the pandemic, where you could run your credit reports as many times as you wanted to. I know I talked to somebody, I don't know, 6-9 months ago, and they were running it every month. So, if they put limits back on the credit reporting agencies, then what I used to do is I would run one every 3 months. The three major credit reporting bureaus, I would run my credit from, one every 3 months. But as far as I know, you can still run it often as you want to. Making sure that when you're using your debit card and your credit card, be very cautious of where you slide that card into. I always grab, if I'm going to the gas station, we regulate gas pumps at the Department of Commerce because we have weights and measures division. And so, we regulate the gas pumps, and people hack into those gas pumps, but we've never seen them hack into the pumps right outside the front door of any gas station. It's always around the outside where they hack in. They put a skimmer device in there so that they can have your information Bluetooth to their computer. They can make up credit cards and run over to, Best Buy and Home Depot and everywhere else to buy stuff. So be careful where you put your card in, inspect the slot, and wiggle it a little bit to make sure somebody hasn't put a skimmer over the card holder and just glued it on there with double stick tape. Sometimes the scammers are a little bit lame that way, but if you inspect it, anything looks bad, be cautious about where you use your card. I always use tap pay. I try never to slide my card in any hole. I use tap pay. I've only heard of one instance where somebody had issues with tap pay, and so I still think that's probably the best way to use your credit card anywhere, or your debit card if that's what you use. They both have protections. I like using my credit card because it puts the financial institution's money at risk instead of my own. But whatever you choose to do, that's great. I know that I use my debit card plenty too, but I'm very careful where I use it nonetheless. Emails and text message are part of life these days, and spoofing comes with that. And so spoofing is where it's basically being an imposter. Somebody will act like they're your bank, or they'll act like some other person or financial institution. And the best way you can protect yourself is to spot it and defend against it. And again, phishing is the act of sending someone a fake email or text message and impersonating a reputable company. That's the way it usually works. You might get something where it says, you have a package coming from the United States Postal Service, and you need to supply a bunch of information to get it. I get several of those. I had a run of it where I got several of them for a couple of weeks, and I didn't respond to any of them. But they look good. Some of these look very good, and not falling for it. And call always, if somebody ever reaches out to you, what my suggestion is, look up the number. Don't rely on the number that's emailed or in a text message or sent to you in any way by somebody else. Look up the phone number yourself and call your financial institution, or call the business directly and say, hey, did you reach out to me and did you ask me this question or for whatever information? Because banks and other legitimate businesses aren't going to ask you for confidential information by email usually. So again, check it out. Look up the number yourself. Call them. That's what I always do. And we'll go over a couple quick things here. Ways to catch you phishing. So on this one, you'll see that there's an extra word terrorist on here, and it's a way that there may be some other poor English here, but still, adding an extra letter like that can defeat these programs that people will have sometimes installed an application that will help to decipher when something is spam. And adding an extra word like that are ways that scammers use to try to fool programs that block spam and phishing messages, and they allow it to get into your inbox. So if you see an email with a random word attached like that in the subject line, it's highly likely that the sender is trying to evade spam blocking software. Look at the addresses. This email here, the email is supposedly from Facebook, but you can see that the return email address at the top red arrow there, isn't an email address in any way resembling facebook.com. Another clue is that this is a phishing attempt is if you hover your cursor over the link in the body of the email. This is something I always do, and look at the bottom left corner of the browser window. You can see where clicking on that link will actually take you, even though that's not what it shows when before you hover on there. So this one will take you to a Russian website. Clearly has nothing to do with Facebook. If you get a suspicious email you don't recognize, it's best to just delete it. Or if you click on unsubscribe link or the button at the bottom of the email, like in this example, it could actually take you to the website operated by the fraudster. So things like this, I just always delete. Okay. And also, if you click on that, then it also sends a message back to the fraudster that this is a live email and I don't want them to compile my information and sell it to other people, because that's another thing that they do. So how can you protect yourself? don't click on the links. Don't open files from strangers that you don't know. If a message sounds too good to be true, then you know the rest of it. It probably is. Strange messages, from a friend, reach out to that friend and contact them. I can't tell you how many people have got a message on Facebook from a friend or family member that said, hey, you want a grant or something to that effect. And then they say, oh, really? And they go back and forth, but they never call their friend or relative and say, did you send me that message? And they'd find out, no, Facebook got hacked and the person's just, using that Facebook account to try to trick you into, thinking the emails from someone that you know and trust, and they'll get you to try to act. Another important tip when you're on a site where the address begins with HTTPS, it's more than likely secure, but that's not guaranteed. Hackers have been known to mislabel web addresses to indicate that it's secure when in reality the hacker is manipulating it. So you can avoid this by looking up the website yourself and clicking on the right link. Again, that's what I was trying to, or suggested for you to do anytime you're contacting a business that allegedly is contacting you. Go back and look up the information yourself, and also be careful. Don't get frustrated. I know that I've had lots of people who got in trouble because they wanted to call Amazon directly or they wanted to call some website directly, but when you go to the website itself, it gives you instructions about how to contact. A lot of times it's by messaging or live chat, how to contact the company, but people don't like to do that. Sometimes they like to have a phone number. So they just Google, whatever the business is and asking about the phone number, and they get a bogus phone number. And then the scammers who put that number online, they'll talk to you as if they're the company, and eventually they'll ask you for money or your information, and then you're in trouble. So just be patient and use the directions that you're given on the website to talk to people. This is an example of one of the things that we got at work, and where they'll try to get you to click on something, and then you'll get a notice in your email that says, hey, this wasn't real at my employer. Excuse me, they'll say this wasn't real, but had it been, then you would have just opened up the Department of Commerce to malware or other types of bad activity. So, it affects everybody. Hopefully this is mostly behind us, but during COVID, they were selling shoddy goods. During COVID, I had so much job security. I still have so much job security, but people buying stuff online during COVID, I had folks calling me all the time. They were on bogus websites. They buy things that never showed up. Places would ask for their information, and they would purchase products that were junk. They'd get, either nothing shipped to them, or they'd get stuff, fake cures. And so again, anytime you're going to use an online website, please do a little bit of research about that online website and make sure that other people aren't complaining about the website. And, that includes anytime you're, and this could happen at any time, but, during COVID, they had all sorts of surveys and things going on. Just be careful who you're giving information out. That's really the point here of our slide is, if you want to fill out surveys, then go to just like contacting your financial institution, actually go to the website of Johnson & Johnson or Pfizer or whoever and see if they have a survey, if that's what you want to fill out. Before I leave you here today, I did want to just go through kind of how scams work, just to remind people that this is really the scammer's playbook. And it's one of the most important things that I try to remember people, that anytime the scammers are trying to rip you off, the best way for them to do it is to get you what they call in the ether. That's the heightened emotions, whether it's fear, love, greed for a lottery or something like that, or a combination thereof. They're trying to get you in this heightened emotional state. Then they don't want you to talk to anyone. They get a fake FBI agent on the phone, a fake person from your financial institution, whoever, They'll use anonymous communications. They might have throwaway phones, but they'll spoof the phone number so it'll look like you're talking to your financial institution or Amazon or whoever they're trying to spoof. Then the other clue here is that they'll have you buy gift cards, or they'll have you send money or wire money, or buy cryptocurrency. That's the big one right now. They send you down to the gas station with a little scan code to a little terminal that looks like an ATM machine. You scan that code, it puts money right in the wallet of the scammer, but they'll tell you that it's a secure wallet. It is. It's the scammer's secure wallet, but they won't tell you that. They'll say it's, a secure place for you to keep your money until whatever they're talking about has passed, that whatever the issue is, whatever the set of circumstances that created the heightened emotions, you put your money in there, and then they take it away. They'll often tell you they'll replace the money or get it back to you or whatever. But when we're in these stressful situations, we make bad financial decisions, and this is the way they get us to make those. So I'm running out of time here, but tech support scams, I just want to mention that quickly. If you get a pop-up on your computer, all right, that'd be extremely careful, because that's how they usually scare you, that you have some sort of malware. My suggestion is turn off your computer immediately. Do not call the 800 number that's on the little pop-up window, because that's where you get hold of the scammers. And so take your computer to, the Geek Squad or Micro Center or somebody you trust, and have them look at your computer and clean that stuff out of there. But sure, do not call the little pop-up folks there, or you will be in trouble. Turn off your computer, bring it to somebody you trust. That's the best thing you can do. Anytime it's a government program like we had with COVID, find out which department at the Department of Health or Department of Commerce or, whatever it is, and call that department or go to their website to get the most updated information. You can sign up for informed delivery. Some people ask me about, they get their mail stolen, or they're worried about their mail being stolen. You can sign up for informed delivery. That's something I get asked about a lot. You can go to the United States Postal Service website. I have it. Every day I get an email. So if somebody does break into my mailbox and they take my mail, I know exactly who I need to contact, who may have that information. So if you have any questions about scams, take out your phone, get ready to take a picture, because I'm going to give you my contact information. But before I do that, I just want to, take you through these quickly again. Monitor your accounts, secure your passwords, protect your computer, control your surfing and what you share with folks online, watch for fake connections, beware of phishing scams, and hopefully that, these will be ways that you can stop yourself from being exploited. All right, you can go to the ARPS Fraud Watch Network. They have lots and lots of very valuable information. You do not have to be a member to log on to ARPS Fraud Watch Network. You can also go to the Federal Trade Commission's website. There is nobody that has more information for free. That's fantastic information about identity theft and all these scams that I've been talking about. You can go to the Federal Trade Commission. If you go to the ARPS Fraud Watch Network, you can click on right there where it says Fraud Watch Network. You'll see a map of the United States, and it'll highlight reports that people are making. You can click on your city, you can click on your state, and it'll give you lists of people or give you lists of reports where people have reported scams and bogus financial transactions, financial exploitations, things of that sort. And you can always call AARP's Fraud Watch Network helpline. Again, you do not need to be a member. That's an 877 number. And you can ask anybody about a scam. And, short of that, or in addition to that, I'll take questions now, but here's my contact information. I wanted you to take out your camera, take a picture. That's it. You can send me an email. You get an email, ship it off to me and say, hey, is this legit? And I'll take a look at it and I'll send you a response. You want to call me on my cell phone? There you go. You have the number, and I'll talk to you about, whatever's happening, and we'll try to figure out together whether it's a scam or not, or, you know, if you have a friend that you are concerned about being scammed, or family member, something like that, call me. We'll talk about it and we'll try to come up with the best way to protect that person. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'll take any questions that anybody has.
Thank
I'm
you so
sorry
much,
again about,
Marty.
yeah, starting late in technical glitches. I apologize.
Nope, that's completely understandable. Thank you so much, Marty. We do have two questions in the chat. Are you able to see the chat there, Marty?
I am not, but I'll pull it up here. Some online articles suggested that changing passwords too often would increase the possibility of someone hacking into your accounts. Is that true? I have never heard that in my whole life. I don't know how changing passwords I don't even know what too often is. I'm just telling you what my department says to me, and that's every 60 to 90 days should be sufficient. And I have access to some extremely sensitive information from the federal government that's limited to regulators and law enforcement. And even they don't make me do it more than, I think it's 60 days for that, the most sensitive. But anytime you think that there could be an issue with your password, or you're concerned about an account, I know that I've changed some after 3 weeks before where I had some issue. But I don't know how changing passwords too often could increase the possibility of someone hacking into your account. I guess I'd have to see the article to see what they're saying. Would using password manager apps and VPN be helpful? Yes, I definitely believe that those two would be helpful. VPN, I don't ever connect to anything on my personal or on my work computers without having a VPN connection, so that from end to end it's encrypted and nobody can see what I'm engaged in. My voice is very echoey. I'm sorry about this. Is this something everyone's hearing? I hope not. I hope not everybody was hearing that. Oh,
No,
never mind. I
it was
fixed
on
it.
her
Okay.
end.
Okay.
Yep, it's all
Sorry.
good.
Sorry. Okay. Explain VPN. I think I just did. So VPN is when I log into my computer at work, the first thing I have to do is I have to log into a virtual private network connection. So I log into this program, and what that does is anything from there forward that I send to an application will be encrypted from my computer to wherever I'm sending it. So they require me at work to always connect using a VPN connection. If you Google VPN or virtual private network, you'll see that there are programs that you can use that will encrypt your communication from one end to the other end. And so that's what you want to use to protect yourself. And many applications use the same thing. So if you go on to something like WhatsApp, that's why scammers like WhatsApp and Telegram and Google Hangouts, all those applications for communications, they encrypt the conversation. So it's hard for law enforcement even to get the conversations between the scammers and the victims, because the scammers know to get you onto these, whatever it is, the application, to have end-to-end encrypted conversations. And that's what the VPN is going to provide you. If there's anything else I'd be happy to try to answer it. I think I'm still within time too. Wow, I was, as you could tell, I was flying through the material.
Yeah, that was amazing information. Definitely going to help us all during these times. Can't be too careful for sure.
Well, again, I thank everybody. If that's it, I appreciate it. There are two more coming up with two people that work for me, the Department of Commerce. Boima Freeman. Boima used to work for financial institutions in their fraud department. He was a trainer, and he used to handle fraud transactions, try to help the customers out with their fraud transactions. He's, I think, the December presentation on just general fraud, and then Lisa Lovering, who works on my team, she will be doing a presentation on other fraud topics. She was with the Ysanne County Sheriff's Office Chief Deputy when she retired after several decades of working law enforcement. Now she's working at the Department of Commerce, so they'll both have great information. And they too, like me, work with fraud victims every day, unfortunately, in Minnesota. And we're trying to get this information out so that we can help you on the front end, so we don't try to have to, give you the bad news that it's almost impossible to get your money back on the back end. So thanks again. I appreciate everyone's time. I'm a minute over. Take care.